Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen Baldwin from Entertainment Weekly, and welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation Conversation. Just a quick note, you can learn more about the Foundation's COVID-19 Relief Fund, which is raising money to help actors during this production shutdown. There are details in the comments below this video. Today, we are delighted to be chatting with Succession stars Sarah Snook, who plays Shiv Roy, and Nicholas Braun, who plays Greg Hirsch, aka Cousin Greg. Welcome to you both.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi. Hi.
So it's great to see you guys together. Shiv and Greg rarely have any sort of one-on-one scenes together. So I thought we'd start by if each of you could choose your favorite scene of the other person's from this past season. So Nicholas, why don't you start? Do you have a favorite Shiv moment from season 2?
Yeah, I do. I do. I like the scene where she and Kendall share a hug in the episode where Kendall is close to the edge, literally and figuratively. There's that scene at night in the office where they embrace was a beautiful scene, and Sarah's work was really good in it, and she plays a pretty, a hardened character at times, but it was a really nice soft moment with her there.
Yeah, that's a great moment. And Sarah, what's your favorite Greg moment?
I love the "We Here For You" scene. That's like comic genius. That whole hang on, what we hear. I couldn't in the read through. I could not keep. But Matthew couldn't get through it. But I couldn't keep a straight face at all, and it just didn't disappoint when it went into like the filmed version. It's just I love it so much.
That's one of those scenes where it's so perfectly written on the page that you're so afraid to screw it up somehow. And at the table read, it was so funny. You're like, we can't screw this up when we're actually filming it,
Yeah, I remember you guys worried that you were going to laugh too much during it, but then going not going to.
So there's so many big stories for both of your characters this season, and one of the biggest stories was Logan telling Shiv that he wants her to take over Waystar. And Sarah, in that scene, you have to balance so many different emotions. Like you can see her brain working almost. How did you approach that scene as a performer?
I don't know. We get to do these little plays when there's a huge amount of people in the scene, and the joy of that is most of the time you just have to listen in the end. You just have to sort of feel the pressure of your dad sitting across the way there, and the expectations. There's so much fodder around you. There's all these different objectives and characters who have different dynamic relationships between themselves, as well as how you might relate to them. So it's a great kind of hunting ground, I guess, as an actor to go all right, what are you thinking about this? What are you thinking about that? To try and distract you from what the moment is, so that it can just bubble up and surprise you. And then there was this one take that we did with Mark. They only used a piece of it in the edit, but did this push in slowly on to kind of see if we might use that as the moment of when she reveals. They only ended up using a piece of it, but I found that the pressure of that feeling, because we never know where the cameras are usually when we shoot, the pressure of suddenly knowing where the camera was, knowing it was on dolly, knowing it was coming towards me, was oh, that's what this dinner, the whole dinner should feel like. The whole dinner should feel oh.
Exactly.
Slowly getting choked. Yeah.
And in that first conversation she has with Logan, she says, "Is this real?" And Nicholas, I feel like Greg has an "is this real" moment too, when Kendall gave him the fancy apartment, and you can see him cycling through all the emotions, oh, you're just messing with me. And then what was that scene like to film?
It's great that Shiv's biggest moment is is it real that I'll be the CEO? And Greg's big "is it real" moment is getting a new apartment. Just a 2-bedroom. Oh my God. But I think it's, for Greg, it's the best part about the writing is that the stakes for any of these characters, no matter what they're going through, are really high, you know. So when you get certain nuggets, you know, in these scenes and in these episodes, it feels really exciting. And for Greg, I think he's been used to just getting punched around and getting sort of like stomped on and staying at the lowest part of the totem pole. So to get something like that was really big for him. And, you know, it's just fun to celebrate as Greg, those types of things. And, you know.
I love the like little Bambi, you do like a little Bambi deer leap around the apartment. It's like, I don't know how coordinated, I can't work out the coordination of that. It was great. Yeah,
I think I just wanted to jump, but then in midair it was like, I want to more than just be in the air. I want to do something in the air.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, and he finally had ceilings that were high enough for him to jump without bumping his head. So
yeah.
So both of your characters have very complex relationships with Tom, played by the wonderful Matthew McFadden. And, you know, Sarah, I'm wondering for you guys, do you and Matthew ever talk through your scenes in advance and what you think is going on in their heads, or do you like to have it all kind of come out in the performances?
No, we don't talk about it or rehearse it so much beforehand. Other than like, there was one or two where we sort of like where the patter of the scene had to kind of go to get like that kind of thing. There was and where like we felt that the balance of it. I think it was the scene where he's wearing the scarf at dinner with Roman and she's just being a bitch to him.
Yeah.
Like she's not being nice. But we wanted to work out a way in which to pitch that, like sort of calibrate it so that it felt like it was not too personal, that it felt like it just came out of like how their relationship is, how their marriage is, how they relate to each other in that dynamic. But otherwise, no, we don't sort of like over rehearse or anything like that. But Matthew's is great to just, you know, if you want to run your lines quickly beforehand, you can, or if you're a person who doesn't, then you don't have to. Like, he's very accommodating in that way. He's just like happy to be there, happy to work, happy to kind of like work with you and make you a better actor, right? Yeah,
totally.
And, I mean, Nicholas, there's that amazing scene this season, obviously, where Tom just is hurling water bottles at Greg, and as a viewer, you know, he's really upset actually about Shiv and the open relationship. And, you know, Greg had made the mistake of saying an open business relationship. Did you guys discuss that subtext at all? Or is it the same with you where you kind of let it come out in the moment?
Yeah, we did. I think it's probably the same. You know, we don't like to talk about it too much and put too much of like a clear head on it. The writing is really good. The writing also has this sort of ambiguity about it that you just don't want to put too much specific stuff on. But I think we understand the point of certain beats, and our concern is like, let's make sure we get that moment, to feel as potent as it can. And I mean, that day was really great because you kind of watched this whole huge arc happen in a room between Greg and Tom. So we got to start with like the fear of maybe getting killed by a shooter out there. And then we got to basically have a breakup and him get rageful at me. And, and then by the end of the day, I've blackmailed him to an extent. So that was one of those really good days where we were like so excited that we had all this stuff to get to do together, but we really didn't talk about it too much.
And am I to understand you were not actually injured by the water bottles? Okay.
Talk about it.
They were intense throws.
Full throws.
They were.
Full arm throws. Yeah.
So Succession has a very unique filming style, with the roving cameras. And as you've mentioned, in other interviews, you guys don't do a ton of rehearsal. And I guess each of you, Sarah, starting with you, how would you say your comfort level has sort of evolved with this filming style from season 1 to season 2? Because it's very different from other TV productions, for sure.
Yeah, super uncomfortable, like at the beginning. thought I was gonna be fired for the first 5 episodes. Just like it's so out of my depth. I don't know what I was doing, and it's surrounded by amazing comedy writers and comedy actors, and I haven't done like straight comedy before, nor a heap of comedy. But it felt really out of my depth. And then with the shooting style, it's like, in the pilot, we've got Adam over on the God mic, just sort of going like, okay, we won't cut, but can you like say another line? Just make it up. Like, okay. I guess be funny. Like, what? That was really intense. But then you get used to it, and then you get you feel like you're an ensemble kind of acting troupe, and that I love it so much because the camera operators, they feel like they're part of the scene, and you're just doing like a dance, like they are just part of, not the furniture, but because they've got more like you feel like they are the people who are just like capturing that moment that you're looking down, or you're having a glance, you're having a private moment. They're there to kind of react to you, and you can share that with them. You're acting with them as well. And so embracing the discomfort made me feel more comfortable with it.
Yeah. And Nicholas, what was your adjustment like?
I mean, yeah, I've never done anything quite like this. I kind of loved the freedom Adam gave us, and the freedom they give us continually, where we get to do that. And I think from the beginning, I kind of liked it, because I think that's my way into Greg, is sort of like, he doesn't think much before he speaks. So it was kind of nice. Like when Adam would just say, hey, start a conversation at the dinner table, or can you say something before you talk to Logan or whatever. So, I like that. I think that's helpful to get you into your character and into your headspace. And even if it's bad and not funny, and which I'm guilty of plenty of that stuff, but at least sometimes you learn something about where your character's at by just speaking out loud some random ass thoughts that come in. And sometimes, if you're in a scene with Kieran, or really everybody's gotten very good at this. If you start it somewhere, they'll usually pick it up and take it, and it'll turn into something at least fun, if not usable.
And Sarah, when you and I spoke before for a story last year, you guys were telling me about how you guys were so amazed by Alan Ruck as an improviser, and like how he walked in that pilot and just started telling the story about the aquifers. Same sort of question. What would you say your comfort level? How has that evolved with improvising yourself in a scene, between now and from when you first started to now?
Yeah, I mean, in the same way with like, if Nick kind of can use Greg a little bit in terms of character to get into the scene, I can use Shiv a little bit to hide my discomfort behind, because she also like, she'll keep her mouth shut a lot of the time, and that's a nice little situation to be in for an actor who's uncomfortable, perhaps in a moment, to go like, all right, I don't have to compete here. It's better, like less is more. If I just like, if I don't have anything to say, maybe there's like a whole lot more going on up in my brain or something like that, that like she's just like watching and thinking about it. So once I like kind of worked out that there's safety in that as an actor, to feel just step back and not feel like, like you're trying to take a breath, then yeah, much more comfortable. And then I can also just like watch everybody else, which I love doing because it's so good.
And Nicholas, what about you? I mean, I think it's so interesting what you said, like just starting a conversation, Greg would probably say something super awkward, and that's, have you ever improvised something that you didn't think they would use and then they did?
Oh, for sure. I'm sure that's happened. Yeah, I mean, yeah, what's great for me in a different way is like, yeah, if I'm feeling awkward, I can, or intimidated, not sure what I'm going to do in a scene, or some days you just feel like a bad actor. I can just speak my thoughts out loud and say stuff in character, and that usually is totally fine. And people are like, oh yeah, Greg is so awkward. But the truth is, I'm awkward as hell sometimes.
So it works.
It totally works. Just got to use it. Yeah.
And do you have any improvs that you were particularly proud of?
I know there was some stuff in the panic room that came out that was good. I don't know, Sarah.
I'm trying to think because like also there's this like joy of when you watch, because I don't get to see so much of what Matthew and Nick get to do together, or like so many other characters, but particularly those two. That like it's such a joy to watch the finished product and go, oh wow, they stuck really to the script, or like they sort of, there's a few like, it's usually the like the top and tail, like the way into the scene or the way out of the scene, just to naturalize it and make it, you know, sort of engage with the reality of wherever you are.
Right.
Those things, I'm like, oh, that wasn't written. I know that wasn't written. They did that.
There was one moment in the scene where Tom is like, hey, I want to take you out for dinner and spoil you tonight. And I'm like, have you ever been to the California Pizza Kitchen? And then the light flickered in the room at some point in that scene. And I said, well, it looks like we're not paying the lighting bill. And I thought that was just going to be a joke on set, because you can't use it if the lights were flickering, but it's in the scene. So that's stuff. But I guess, you know, Waystar Royco has some problems, you know.
Yeah.
It's a leaky ship.
Yeah.
And Sarah, you had some really incredible scenes with Holly Hunter this season as well. Like just very, like these two characters are very similar in a lot of ways in terms of how they play things close to the vest. What was that like to have her come in, you know, to this ensemble and play such a key part in Shiv's arc this season?
Yeah, it was amazing. And the first time I met her, it was at the read through. You guys were shooting episode 3, the bore on the floor sequences, and so I wasn't there. She was in the city in that episode, but I came out to the hunting lodge where they were shooting, and Holly had come out for the read through as well. And I was like, that one looks like Holly Hunter. No weird. He introduced herself and said, hi, I'm Holly. I'm like, what's she doing here? What's going on? I had no idea that she had been cast as Rhea.
Yeah.
And then watching her read, and just that first read through, I was like, of course, that's genius. That's so good. That's so like, there's just so much like fluidity to that character and strength that she's like the perfect person to embody that. But I had another one of those like moments where I did the like, that's Holly Hunter kind of thing. But in the acting of it, in the scene in episode 6, and there's like a scene Shiv and her are doing the sort of like negotiation thing, and I just brain farted where I just did that and completely lost my line, and she was looking at me and I was looking at her. I guarantee she would have been like, you just remembered who I am. But she's so great and so fun and just like cool as hell. Just off you know, off set and all that. Just like it's rad. Yeah.
And Nicholas, there's so many scenes this year or this season with Tom that are so funny, and I don't know how you make it through any of them without laughing. Was there a particular one this season, like human footstool or the we hear you scene? Like, were there either of those? Like, what was the scene where you guys just couldn't do it without breaking?
There was a scene, I keep talking about it, but I guess it's just in my head, in the panic room. And I think we did some improv earlier that day where when we ran into the room afraid of the shooter outside, the cameras were rolling and I was like, I gotta call my mom. I'm gonna call my mom. You know, and I was texting her, and this is irrelevant because none of it made the show, I don't think. But later on, there was a scene where Tom was like, I think we were like coming down from the fight after the water bottles, and it was sort of this like, okay, like what's happening kind of fight or kind of scene. And he was like, why don't you call your mommy? And for him to bust my balls about calling my mother when I thought I was gonna die, I couldn't get through that. And I don't think I ever did. And maybe that's why it's not in the show. But just him making fun of like such a human like moment, being really afraid of dying, really got me.
It's very Tom though, right?
Yeah. But there's a lot. I mean, everything with him is funny. His facial expressions are funny. He's just, I don't know, he's so fun to laugh at.
Because he wants to laugh as well. You can just see it on his face. He's just like, I want to, like, he is so desperate to laugh as well.
Yeah, he does little things with his mouth that, like, he can get away with somehow, but, like, they're clearly him covering up smiling.
We'll have to go back and watch and look for his funny mouth movements and see those moments. So, Sarah, I read in one interview that you were shadowing the director during the filming of the season finale. Are you interested in directing, or what was that about?
Yeah, I just wanted to hang out. I just didn't want to go home. I was in Croatia, could stay. I want to direct. I wanted to for a while, but you know, sometimes it's just about finding the time too. And then realized at the end of, as we were finishing the end of season, I was like, oh, I can actually stay on here and shadow Mark, I think, and asked, and they were like, yeah, that'd be great. Love you to. And then I just, in this pandemic time, in terms of like, you know, having more time available, just directed something for the first time, which was like really exciting. And
congratulations.
Yeah, so that's done now. You know, the sound mix for it, which is you know, all sorts of nerve-wracking and all that kind of thing, but fun. Yeah. And
did anything really surprise you about how that season finale, like putting together that press conference especially, like, was such an intense scene to shoot?
Yeah, I mean, just in like watching how Mark kind of like can do the edit in his head, knowing what he needs, but then getting so much coverage as well, and knowing that like I've got the time to get all these pieces, that when you see it in the final piece, you're like, oh, there's like so much available to cut between. And then you end up as the actor, like, I mean, and Jeremy, I'm sure, enjoyed this anyway, because it's such a difficult scene to like feel like you got right, even though from the beginning I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing. But as the actor, he's doing that monologue maybe like 10 or 11, 12 times, which like you end up getting more like labored doing it and feel like you're not being fresh or spontaneous, which wasn't the case watching it for Jeremy's performance at all. But it was so great, like as the actor, you know, having been on the other side of the camera so much.
Oh, Snook.
We lost your sound.
For a sec.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, there. Now we can hear you.
Yeah, you're back.
Yes.
Yeah, just like, you know, like the little things, like when you're in front of the camera that you worry about, seeing from behind with Mark, just, you know, orchestrating. There's so much that you don't need to worry about. Otherwise, because he's like, and also with such a great director, you're like, oh, he's got my back. Like, yeah, that was, yeah.
That's great. And we have time for a couple more questions. Nicholas, I have to ask you, in a past interview, Jeremy Strong said that during Kendalls Rap, there was a version at one point where you guys had talked about possibly having Greg come up on stage to be Kendall's hype man during the rap. Can we discuss this? What was that about?
That was born out of the moment that he played me the song that day in the base camp. He brought me into his trailer and he played the song, and we were both so hyped about it. And it felt like Kendall and Greg would be sharing that with each other. Or Kendall would be like, Greg, how is this? You know, because they live in the same building. Why wouldn't they prepare this together? So it felt like, oh yeah, that could be really fun, and I'm helping you and stuff. But I think I'm glad we didn't. I think that moment is really good. Just him on an island by himself. You know, I mean, I think it's successful. It's a good rap, but you know, the rest of the room, we're not sure what they thought about it.
And then like cutting to you being so like, and knowing kind of the words a bit, and like, it's great.
Exactly.
You're being the hype man just in the audience. It's great.
Yeah, I'm like bursting with pride for him, but also like gauging whether I should be doing that. If it's a bad move to support him. Can I support him? Like that's kind of.
Yeah, should you not be as into it as he clearly is? He's definitely into it.
Yeah.
So for each of you, I mean, your characters ended in a very, like Sarah, Tom, and Shiv ended in a very critical place. What are you hoping for their relationship in the next season?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I could say things as Sarah, but I don't know what Shiv wants for that. Like,
what does Sarah want for Shiv to want?
I mean, more of the same is really fun to act, right? But also I'd like them to be happy and for Tom not to be treated so badly. But then that's not interesting TV. And Shiv, to be honest, probably wants the interesting TV version. It's like more, okay, yeah, we're going to deal with this and then, fall back into old patterns or, I don't know, something fun to act.
And Nicholas Gregg, made the choice to go against his grandpa and keep working for Logan, but he's also getting better at sort of protecting himself in a way and taking steps to be more savvy. So what would you like to see from him?
Well, it seems like he's joined Kendall. So it seems that way. So I don't know. I mean, it's pretty bold of him to have those papers ready to go at the press conference. But maybe he can do that in a way where he's still playing both sides and he doesn't totally abandon the Logan ship. I don't know. I think he's getting pretty good at calculating what the best side is to be on. So I can't really make a call. The writers will make that call for me. but I think he's going to go where he sees his biggest potential to leap upward. So.
Yeah. And what have you guys heard? What's the latest in terms of, obviously everyone's waiting to go back into production sort of safely. Are the writers working or what's the status right now?
I mean, as far as I know, the writers are, have been working, keeping in contact and that kind of thing. And then when it's safe to go back, we'll, like, as with everybody else in production, sort of, and when they're, it's kind of like waiting game, really. When we'll go back, we'll go back when it's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait to go back. I'm like,
trying to go back. Can't wait to just read a script.
Yeah, that's my favorite. To be honest, like the acting of it, fine, great, really fun. But the reading of the script in the read-throughs, favorite thing ever. Because I get to see all the other scenes and I get to see what happens to the characters. And then it changes inevitably, which is even more fun because you get to like read more good scenes. I don't know. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Well,
me too.
We are just as excited as you guys to see more, but for now, we can just go back and binge season 2 because it's excellent and rewatchable. So thank you guys so much, and thank you everyone out there for joining us for this SAG-AFTRA Foundation conversation. And be sure to check out information about the COVID-19 Relief Fund in the comment section below.
Thank you.
Thank you.